Thanks for joining us for CBN News Today. I'm Charlene Aaron. An important debate is happening right now in Washington that most people don't know about, and it could affect how good your internet service is at home and at work. The question is, what's the best way for the web to operate so that everyone has the best internet possible? Jennifer Wishon has the story from Washington.
Each day, the internet becomes more integral to the way we live, learn, and do business. And the Federal Communications Commission has been trying for years to figure out how to ensure the internet serves everyone equally, with all traffic over the web getting equal treatment, so that no business or website is able to move faster over the net than any others. The idea is known as net neutrality.
Without net neutrality, there's a real risk that internet service providers could choose to give preferential treatment to certain companies, certain websites, or degrade access to others.
But in January, a federal appeals court threw out the FCC's net neutrality rules, essentially saying the FCC doesn't have authority to regulate high-speed or broadband internet service providers. But the court gave the commission some guidance on how to rewrite the rules without losing in court again.
It's really integral as these services, as internet becomes so essential in our lives. Now is really the time for them to act.
Derek Shani and other advocates for net neutrality want the FCC to reclassify the internet in federal law so that the internet would be considered a telephone, giving the FCC full authority to regulate it. Critics say that's regulation from more than a century ago that doesn't belong in today's modern technology.
It's the type of regulation that would have been very familiar to Grover Cleveland. What are we doing talking about it for the 21st century?
James Gattuso of the Heritage Foundation worked for the FCC in the early 90s. Instead of putting the internet in the same category as phone and water service, he argues the agency needs to stay out of it and let the free market determine the future.
The internet is dynamic, innovative, constantly changing, constantly coming up with new ideas. The FCC is none of that. The FCC is slow, it's bureaucratic, it doesn't come up with new ideas.
Gattuso compares it to the highway. Increasingly in congested areas, people are given the option to pay more to get where they're going more quickly in so-called fast lanes. He says it makes sense for faster internet service providers to be allowed to do the same thing. Cut deals with companies who want their traffic prioritized into a fast lane into your home.
Unless you believe that money is somehow an illegitimate way to allocate resources, this is totally unobjectionable. It sorts out consumers by need, and those that need something more or desire something more should be able to obtain it in the marketplace.
But advocates for net neutrality argue that if big companies like Netflix can purchase a faster lane into consumers' homes, then startup companies can't compete.
The next Facebook or the next Google wouldn't be able to get off the ground.
For advocates like Derek Shani, giving the FCC power to regulate these aspects of the internet will guarantee it remains open and equal. But critics like Gattuso warn such regulations will ultimately lead to worse internet service, not better. FCC commissioners vote on the newest proposal, then the public will have the chance to weigh in. It will be months, though, possibly a year, before any new rules are adopted. Jennifer Wishon, CBN News, Washington.
A big battle between free speech and privacy is playing out in Europe. Google and other search engines are now facing some major limitations there. Europe's highest court ruled individuals should have some say over what pops up when their name is Googled or searched for online. The European Union Court of Justice says Google must listen and sometimes comply when individuals ask the internet giant to remove links to newspaper articles or websites containing personal information. Google says people should take it up with the websites that posted the material.
The court decided that this person's privacy right outweighs Google's interest in making any information available. It sounds like it's just about Google, but it's really actually very threatening to much of the internet. The internet is a place where you find information.
The decision has no immediate impact in the U.S. or other countries outside Europe, but it will impact all search engines, including Yahoo and Microsoft's Bing. Billionaire investor Warren Buffett is being called the true face of abortion. That's because he gave $1.2 billion to abortion groups around the world. That's potentially enough money to abort the entire city of Chicago, or more than 2.5 million lives. He gave the money between 2001 and 2012. The Media Research Center reports the major media have ignored Buffett's billion-dollar abortion funding. MRC Vice President Dan Gaynor said the liberal media love two things unconditionally: abortion and Warren Buffett. Although I suppose it's really one thing they love, because according to our research, abortion and Warren Buffett are synonymous. Joining us now with more is Kristen Hawkins of Students for Life. Kristen, were you surprised by this report about Warren Buffett? There hasn't been any media coverage about it, has there?
No, there really hasn't. You know, for years in the pro-life movement, we've talked about what is Warren Buffett's real involvement with abortion. We knew his foundation was pro-abortion, but we really didn't know the extent of his dedication to the abortion movement until this report came out.
And what do you think his motivation or reason for being so incredibly pro-abortion?
Well, I think it's this old school myth of the world is overpopulated. You know, that myth that was popular in the 1970s, which demographers have already proven is an invalid concern. And that's where his support for abortion started. He, you know, his own biographer had said he has this Malthusian, he's obsessed with overpopulation, is concerned about what does overpopulation mean for the world. And so he learned about abortion, and one of his partners at Berkshire Hathaway actually credits himself for getting Warren Buffett into the abortion movement. So I think he saw abortion as the solution to this fear that he has had about overpopulation for years.
Well, with Buffett giving more than $1 billion for abortion, why do liberals like President Obama still insist on giving millions of taxpayer dollars to Planned Parenthood?
That's a great question, and that's a question that each and every one of us needs to ask our House of Representatives member and our senators, because this is a major problem. Planned Parenthood received over $300 million from the Buffett Foundation in the past 11 years, yet they're receiving over $500 million of our taxpayer dollars every year. And as a nonprofit, they're making a profit of hundreds of millions of dollars a year. Clearly, our taxpayer funds are not needed for this abortion organization.
Definitely. Well, is there any way to counteract this massive financial pro-abortion influence of Buffett?
Well, I think there's a few things that we can do. We can start talking about this. We can demand that the media address this factor, just like with the Kermit Gosnell trial last year, where no one really wanted to talk about Kermit Gosnell and his Philadelphia House of Horrors. I think the other thing we can do is call our representatives here in Washington, D.C., and encourage them to defund the abortion industry. Warren Buffett has funded over 2.7 million abortions with his $1.2 billion in the past 11 years. That is a genocide of people. There is no reason that taxpayers should be further funding this. And we need to be asking other philanthropists to get involved, to counteract Warren Buffett's moves, because he is a dedicated abortion supporter. Nothing is going to stop him from putting his money into this solution where he thinks is going to limit the world's population.
Absolutely incredible. Kristen Hawkins, Students for Life, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Gay couples in Idaho could get married as soon as Friday. A district judge ruled the state's ban on same-sex marriage is unconstitutional.
We won! We're ecstatic.
And it's time.
It is. It's been time. I'm just glad it's finally really time.
Yeah. Four lesbian couples sued the state over the same-sex marriage ban that voters approved in 2006. Governor Otter calls the decision, quote, disappointing and a small setback. Otter said he is committed to upholding the will of the people and will defend the ban. The ruling will take effect on Friday morning unless a higher court issues a stay. Officials have called off the wildfire evacuation for 20,000 residents in San Diego, and thousands of residents are returning to their homes. Record heat, dry air, and high winds created dangerous fire conditions in the southwest of California. Hundreds of acres were lost to the flames. Red flag warnings are still in effect for more than 15 million people, especially with some temperatures remaining in the triple digits for the rest of the week. Rescuers are in a race against time to reach more than 200 miners trapped underground in a coal mine in western Turkey. An explosion and fire killed more than 200 of the almost 800 people inside the mine. Dale Hurd has the story.
During the night, people cheered and applauded as some trapped workers emerged, their faces and hard hats covered in soot. But officials admitted there's little hope for those still trapped. This woman says, "I don't know what's happening. Wounded, missing, I haven't heard anything." She says her husband is in there. An explosion from a power distribution unit tore through the mine as workers were preparing for a shift change, which meant there were even more workers inside the mine than usual. Officials said the fire was still burning in the mine, releasing deadly carbon monoxide.
Reserve air pumping operations continued, and as of now, we have lost 201 of our miners. We fear that this number will rise. I also said there were 80 wounded. 60 of those injured were the miners.
The death toll is expected to go much higher as rescue operations have been hindered because the mine had still not been cleared of dangerous gas. Some of the workers were more than a quarter mile below the surface. News reports said workers could not use elevators to escape because the explosion had cut off power. Some of the injured who emerged alive were whisked away on a stretcher to the cheers of onlookers. But for the families of hundreds more, hope that they will ever see their loved ones again is fading with each passing hour. Dale Hurd, CBN News.
6 Ukrainian soldiers were killed by pro-Russian rebels during an ambush in the eastern part of the country. Heavily armed rebels fired rocket-propelled grenades and automatic weapons at the convoy of Ukrainian paratroopers in Donetsk. The attack was the latest in a string of deadly clashes between pro-Russian separatists and Ukraine's interim government. Dozens have been killed on both sides over the past several weeks. The Ukrainian government has reluctantly agreed to a series of talks to end the crisis by giving eastern regions more independence. Russia strongly backs the plan, while Ukrainian officials and the U.S. remain skeptical. Coming up, Syrian rebels asking for aid. The head of the opposition in Washington trying to get weapons from the United States.
Millions of Americans with an ostomy live their lives to the fullest every day. And over the last 10 years, thousands have chosen Liberator Medical as their caring and reliable resource for ostomy supplies. Liberator Medical is a nationally accredited Medicare, Medicaid, and insurance provider, so we can handle all your Medicare, Medicaid, and insurance paperwork and billing. And Liberator Medical has been chosen as a preferred supplier by all the leading ostomy manufacturers, including Coloplast, Hollister, Convatec, and Generics. We supply all these leading ostomy brands, so you can always get the ostomy supplies and accessories you want and trust. And all of our ostomy care specialists are product certified by the manufacturers. Shipping is free and discreetly delivered right to your door. Unhappy with your present ostomy supplier? Call Liberator Medical and ask about our free ostomy sampling program. We also offer catheters and urological supplies.
Call 1-800-513-3076. That's 1-800-513-3076.
Pat Boone here with some good news you can trust. Today, our faith, families, and our freedoms are under attack. Polls say 2 out of 3 Americans no longer trust government. A stalled economy, weakening dollar, and politicians willing to steal money from our children to waste on unfixable problems. So, whom can you trust? Well, our money still says in God we trust. But do we? Or have we quietly allowed the things we hold sacred to be stolen by the enemies of traditional values? Today, our government spends almost twice its income, running up a tab for future generations into the hundreds of trillions. How can you stop this from happening to your family? Well, it's all covered in a fantastic new book, The Great Withdrawal by Craig Smith and Dr. Lowell Ponte. Every American needs to read this book. Why don't you call now for a free copy of The Great Withdrawal? It's the simple truth you can trust.
A third potential case of Middle East respiratory syndrome has been reported in the United States. It comes after the Center for Disease Control and Prevention said a man in Florida was diagnosed over the weekend. That man is now in isolation. Earlier this month, another MERS case was discovered in Indiana. The lethal respiratory virus was first found in people in the Middle East back in 2012. Since then, there have been over 500 cases, the majority being found in Saudi Arabia. Nearly 140 people have been killed by the virus. President Obama is meeting with the leader of Syria's opposition forces. The move comes as the Syrian government makes gains on the battlefield, and President Bashar al-Assad plans for victory in a June 3rd election. The question now, is it too late for the U.S. to help end the violence there? Heather Sells reports.
Just days ago, the battered city of Homs stood as a rebel stronghold. But after the government's 2-year blockade and bombing campaign, the rebels have given up. Today, thousands of Syrians are streaming back into town, and the rebels are gone. Their surrender seen as paving the way for Syrian President Bashar al-Assad. The U.S. has already denounced his June 3rd election, calling it phony. This week, it's meeting in Washington with what it calls the moderate opposition and its leader, Ahmad al-Jarba.
His coalition, the Syrian opposition coalition that he has built, is an inclusive and moderate institution committed to the Syrian people and to the protection of all people, all minorities, all rights within Syria.
Just last week, the U.S. recognized this opposition group as a diplomatic foreign mission and pledged $27 million to help the rebels oust Assad. But is it too little, too late? Off the coast of Cyprus, international ships wait to collect the last of Syria's chemical weapons before a June 30th deadline, after Syria already missed an April cutoff. Early Tuesday, a leading human rights group said it has strong evidence that Syria used chemical weapons on rebels just last month. More grim news for a country that's already lost 150,000 people in its conflict. Humanitarian groups say more than 3 million Syrians have no access to essential goods and services. Heather Sells, CBN News.
Up next, a third great American awakening, how some spiritual leaders are calling on God to spark a revival in the country.
Attention sleep apnea patients. Are you tired of the expense and hassle of getting your CPAP and BiPAP supplies? Are you fed up with dealing with ill-fitting, leaking, or worn-out masks and straps? Are you worried about the effects that unsanitary tubes, cushions, and filters have on your health? If you said yes to any of these questions, Allied Medical Supply Network has the solution to your problems. You could qualify to have your supplies regularly delivered right to your door at little or no cost to you. That's right, no more inconvenience, no worn-out masks and straps, no more unsanitary equipment, just restful sleep. Call Allied Medical Supply Network today to determine if you may qualify to receive your fresh, brand-name supplies at little or no cost. Don't delay. Call us now to see if you are eligible to save money on regular delivery of your CPAP and BiPAP supplies. Call 1-800-815-9947. That's 1-800-815-9947. Or go to cpapsupplyhelpline.com.
Announcing an important breakthrough in healthcare that can benefit everyone. If you or anyone you love needs affordable health insurance, regardless of a pre-existing medical condition, call Quick Insurance 123 today and get the immediate relief you deserve. Quick Insurance 123 was created to provide affordable health insurance to all uninsured Americans, with or without pre-existing conditions. This is not a discount card. This is a real insurance program that lets you choose from many affordable health plans, with access to doctors, hospitals, emergency services, and more. So call the number on your screen now and get the health coverage you need just for calling. As a special bonus, we'll send you a free prescription savings card that could save you up to 85% on your prescriptions. That's right, you could save up to 85% on your prescriptions just for calling. Call Quick Insurance 123 to find out how you can get affordable health insurance and receive your free prescription savings card just for calling. Don't wait. Getting a free quote is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Call today.
Hello? Is this thing on? Hey, kids! you love games? And do you love discovering things? Well, do ya?
Then you're gonna love this. It's the new free Superbook Kids Bible app. You can play games, watch videos, find answers to your questions, and a whole lot more. The new Superbook Kids Bible app. Free downloads available on iTunes and Google Play now.
Some say America is in such a moral tailspin, without a third great awakening, the land of the free could be lost. But as Paul Strand reports, there's a plan afoot to spark that awakening this summer.
You need to slap yourself right now and get right with God, fall in love with Jesus, and stand up for America.
Originally from South Africa, Pastor Rodney Howard-Browne says God sent him to America with a word.
But there's coming a revival of signs and wonders and the lost. And he said, go tell the church to get ready for the coming revival.
Now he and others hope to spark that revival, starting in the heart of the nation's capital, holding 14 nights of mega-sized meetings in early July as America celebrates its 238th birthday.
We've come to light the fires right in the belly of the beast, if you could put it that way.
Promos for this massive undertaking, known as Celebrate America, will soon blanket Christian media.
God's not finished with America. I've got good news for you. God's not finished with this land.
Howard-Browne and others hope and pray this event will ignite a third great awakening and revive the nation.
In the 1700s, it was a great awakening. In the 1800s, it was, and we have to have one now. It's that critical.
Bishop Harry Jackson of Maryland's Hope Christian Church agrees.
Really at the root of America's problem, we really have a spiritual cancer that's really been eating away at our nation.
Retired General Jerry Boykin used to fight America's physical enemies overseas. Now working with the Family Research Council, he's fighting spiritual foes. He says without a third great awakening, forces like those that took down mighty empires of the past will also bring down the United States.
We're going to wind up exactly like these other great empires, which only lasted on an average of about 200 years. We're going to completely self-destruct, and you see the beginnings of that now.
Jackson ticked off some of the sins plaguing the land.
We've got sex trafficking, we've got abortion, we've got the resurgence of racism, we've got hatred that is abounding.
3,000 babies aborted every single day in this country. We have over 300 million people. We use 70% of the world's drugs.
Before both the first and second Great Awakening, the country was in a tailspin and Christians in despair.
There are preachers that were ready to give up. The nation was in a moral nadir. Greed, corruption, and sin abounded.
Howard-Browne sees similar things today, right here in Washington.
We keep going down the hole, no matter who's in power. God is taken out of every realm of our government, even though the scripture is still ingrained in marble on all the establishment. They can't get that out.
But Howard-Browne sees a special grace on America.
Knowing what I know now, we should be gone a long time ago. But it's because of the believer in this land and the hand of God that's still on America, and God's not finished with this land. So it's time for the church to rise up.
Boykin believes the power to save the U.S. is not in politicians, but in its believers.
Me plus the Holy Spirit, that's a majority.
During those first weeks in July, in the daytime, thousands of specially trained Christians will hit the streets of D.C. to evangelize and bring new converts to the kingdom.
Just really believe in God to cast the gospel net across the Capitol.
At night, those 14 giant meetings held between July 1st and 19th will feature worship and long looks at what made America strong, as well as what it'll take to make it strong again. There'll also be calls for Christians whose walk is weakened to make their walk strong again, too.
Awakenings really begin with individuals, people who are converted and transformed.
The event's organizers have a goal: to see political, spiritual, and business leaders uniting themselves and humbling themselves before God.
Coming together in the very hub of the nation and crying out to God for Him to transform us first and then to transform our nation.
These leaders believe revival could then sweep the land.
The Holy Spirit is contagious.
If the fear of God would come back in the people, it will have a ripple effect throughout the land. It'll go right through our schools. It'll go through our university. campuses.
I know that the time is short, and I know that it's 2 seconds at midnight. We must run now. We must carry the gospel. We must run as never before.
For this to succeed, the organizers of Celebrate America say they need thousands of Christians who already have the fire of revival burning in their hearts to come volunteer in Washington this July to be foot soldiers in this war for the nation's heart.
I'm asking we the people, come and help us. Come and help us if you love America and you love the nation and you love the Constitution.
Paul Strand, CBN News, Washington.
Do you have an idea for an invention or a new product? Brian and Alice Jagosh, the inventors of the halftime drill driver, did. They invented a power drill attachment that lets you drill, flip, and drive in seconds. Brian and Alice licensed their invention to the company that brought you the Snuggie, and it's now selling in major retailers nationwide. Look for the Invent Help Caveman on the package. If you have an invention that you would like to try to patent and submit to companies for possible review and want free information on how Invent Help may be able to assist you, call now. Invent Help is America's largest inventor service company with sales offices in more than 60 cities nationwide. Call Invent Help today for free information. Our clients made a financial gain with their invention, but this is just their individual result. Brian and Alice's experience is not typical, as only a very small number of inventions are licensed or sold in stores.
For your free inventors information, call 1-800-559-8567. That's 1-800-559-8567.
If you had a choice between going bald and a full head of hair, which would you choose? Advances in medical science have resulted in the world's first and only permanent solution to hair loss.
Yes!
You wash it, you cut it. It's your own real, naturally growing hair. When it comes to hair restoration, no one in the world has more experience than Bosley. The results look completely natural and are affordable on nearly any budget. But the entire process can't be explained in 60 brief seconds. So to find out more about this clinically proven and permanent solution to hair loss, call now to receive your free no-obligation information kit. It'll answer all of your questions about hair loss and hair restoration. Plus, we'll also send you this $250 gift certificate just for calling. Every day you wait, you're losing more hair. So don't put it off any longer. You owe it to yourself to find out the facts. Choose hair. Choose Bosley.
Call 800-868-9957. That's 800-868-9957.
Memorial Day is just around the corner, and while many schools are using the holiday to teach kids about our country, one Iowa school is using it to reunite a father and daughter. Emma Miller thought she was selected to participate in a special presentation. The third grader had no idea that her own dad was behind the whole thing. Major John Miller has been in Afghanistan the last 9 months. The Black Hawk helicopter flyer used the school's presentation as a cover for his surprise return.
It's good to hold her again and just, just happy to be back with her and with my family.
I'm just really happy that my family's finally together.
Beautiful. Well, this was Major Miller's 4th deployment. Now that he's home to the family plans to take a vacation together over the Memorial Day weekend. What a beautiful reunion that is. Well, that's going to do it for now on CBN News Today. You can find more of our exclusive coverage of the issues you care most about at cbnnews.com. And tell us what you think about the stories you've seen here. You can do that on Facebook or at CBN News on Twitter. Hope you join us next time. Have a great day. God bless.
Inside every child is a hero, a leader, a friend to others, someone who helps out, who does the right thing, who dreams of what they can be, but they still need our help.
What should I do? What should I say? How should I feel?
That's where Superbook comes in. It provides moral and spiritual truths through situations children can relate to, teaching God's Word to the children you love. Join the Superbook DVD Club and receive Superbook's newest episodes as they're available, plus 2 copies to share with others, all for your gift of only $25. Get Superbook today and watch the miracles happen.
Every day, people are connecting on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Now you can be part of the conversation and connect on topics you care about through 700 Club Interactive. Log on to Facebook, Twitter, or go to YouTube and share your opinions, your prayer requests, and your videos while making friends in our community.
Well, welcome to the show.
Join the conversation on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. 700 Club Interactive. Be a part of the show.